Are you only hiring from Indeed or word of mouth? Do you struggle getting qualified talent with the work ethic you're looking for? This session will give you a practical frameworks for attracting great talent, setting expectations, and building a team that actually sticks around. CEO and founder of BlueRecruit, a new age marketplace for hiring talent, will show you the landscape and show you where and how to hire, train, and retain for long-term growth.
Hey everybody, my name is Rich Camacho, CEO, co-founder of BlueRecruit. Really hope you're having a great summit. And I just want to join you here today to talk a little bit about how to hire folks, how to find them, how to retain them, how to build them. We've been a long-time partner of House Call Pro. What we do at BlueRecruit is we created a job marketplace for skilled trade workers. You can kind of think of us almost like a dating app, but instead of weird first dates, we connect you with the plumbers, the carpenters, the electricians that your team needs to grow. So what I thought would make a ton of sense today is to talk through really the high level of the entire hiring process, how to find folks, how to interview them, eventually how to bring them on board, and how to start developing them and really turning them into the future pros for your company. So I think a great place to start is at the sourcing. And when you think of sourcing, you think of, how am I going to go out there and actually just find the people that are interested in joining my company? Just like I'm sure you do a lot of work to source future customers, you're out there on social media, paid ads, pay-per-click. Finding talent is very, very similar. And the way you should approach it is just like you're trying to sell your services, your company to customers, you're also trying to sell your company as a future home for your employees. And so when you want to think about sourcing, you want to think about the jobs that you're trying to hire for. The worst possible thing you can do is try and shove every possible open role, every employment opportunity in your company into the same kind of box. We hear the old thing, don't try and shove a round peg into a square hole, or maybe it's the other way around, I'm not really sure. But when people try to hire, they often say, hey, you know what? I need to hire a salesperson for my HVAC company. I need a plumber, and I need an office administrator. Well, guess what? Those are three very different roles, which obviously you know. So why are you trying to hire them in the same exact manner? What I like to do instead is say, okay, what kind of a role am I trying to hire for? Let's say your sales role. There is no better place on the internet to go to hire sales professionals than LinkedIn. LinkedIn allows you to view that person's marketing, their experience, their background, the communication they have with others, all critical components to being a good salesperson. Or on the other hand, if you're trying to hire maybe a senior executive for your company, a office type administrator, believe it or not, I'm going to say it, Indeed's a great place to do that. You can go ahead and look at resumes, look at past work. However, if you're trying to hire a skilled carpenter, a licensed journeyman electrician for your company, guess what? Do you really care whether that person has a one-page qualitative resume? Do you really care if a plumber has a solid LinkedIn profile? No, it doesn't match up with what that person does professionally. And that's why I recommend other sourcing methods. If you want to use BlueRecruit, I'd love that. But there's other things as well. Job fairs. If you're not visiting with your local community colleges, your local trade schools, attending chamber events to speak with individuals in the community, that's one of the greatest resources that you can possibly be using. And guess what? The cost is virtually nil. The number one place to hire employees, believe it or not, is from your own employees. Employee referrals is the single most effective tool, not only for bringing folks on board, but for long-term retention. At the end of the day, nobody wants to work with someone they don't like. No one wants to work with, that bully, that lazy individual. So when an employee of yours recommends somebody, they've already done that initial vetting for you. They've said, hey, this person is not only a good worker, I want to work with them. They're going to improve their status. And you can go ahead and actually, rather than, paying a bunch of money to post jobs all over the internet, give your existing employees a bonus whenever they bring somebody on board to your team. That person stays for 90, 180, 360, whatever amount of days that you wish for, and you'll see long-term benefit from establishing a solid employee referral system. So we talked a little bit about how to actually find talent, where you're going to source them. Now it's actually, how do you reach out to these individuals? How do you have that first impression with somebody? Most people, when they think about that, when it comes to recruiting, they think of the job post. I'll be the first one to tell you the job posts kind of industry or methods are very, it's a dying industry. Fewer people are actually responding to them, listening to them, engaging with them than ever before. However, obviously it's still very common. If you are utilizing job posts, the number one thing you want to do is be extremely transparent with what it is the job is actually entitles, what you're offering, rather than doing these very high level, our company is a great place to work at, come apply. Let people know exactly what it is they're getting into, because what you want to do is to minimize the amount of kind of wasted applications, wasted resumes that you're shifting through, and you're trying to make the process as efficient as possible. What I mean by that, very simple way. If you're saying, hey, we're hiring an electrician for our company, say the hourly rate for what you're hiring for. If you need somebody to have a certain certification, put that exact certification in the job post. When it comes to salaries, nothing sounds worse than you say, hey, this job has a potential salary of $35,000 to $175,000. Well, one of those salaries is great. The other one, not so much. Obviously, that's not a real window. Put real hourly pays. If it's salary, put a real range and lay down exactly what the job entails, what's expected of those individuals, so you can get individuals that are actually applying. One little thing that I like to do, in the middle of my job post, I'll write a silly sentence like, tell me that you love apple pie. If those people responding to you have no clue what you're talking about when you ask them about pie, if they don't include the apple pie, they didn't even read your application. If they can't take the time to read that job post, read the application, are they really going to have the attention to detail, the focus that you need them for critical jobs, such as speaking with your customers? Last thing I want to say on there, if you're posting jobs out there, please utilize your company domain email address. There is nothing worse out there than saying jobs@fredscarpentry@yahoo.com. Send your resume to bobsplumbing@aol.com. Believe it or not, people still have aol.com email addresses. Nowadays, we all know, everyone just assumes that whenever you're doing something online, whenever you get a text message and email, oh, this is spam, this isn't real, they're trying to steal my information. Guess what? Really easy way to have someone think that you're trying to steal information or you're not legitimate is to put your company name at yahoo.com. No one's going to apply to that, especially young people. Getting a company domain is about $12 a month on Google. Very well worth the investment. So you reached out, you sourced individuals, you'd established how you're actually going to reach out to them. Now it's a matter of how do you actually do that physical reach out and communicate with people. One thing to keep in mind right now is we hear a lot in the labor force about the labor shortage. Hey, there's no one out there wants to work. I'm gonna be the one to tell you right now, all of that is complete hogwash. Right now, our country here in the United States, we're developing more skilled trade labor than we ever have since World War II. In reality, that statistic's a little bit skewed because in World War II, you're either fighting Japanese or the Germans, or you're working in a factory. So we really didn't have any other options. So in reality, we are now producing more skilled trade labor and talent than we ever have in our history. Our trade schools across the country are exceeding application expectations. They're growing on average about 6% year over year. Interest among Gen Z in whether they want to pursue a skilled trade career has nearly doubled to 2017. Right now, 49% of Gen Zers are saying that they're interested in either attending or at least learning more about trade schools, skilled trade focused community college programs. So we're building out this talent. But the real challenge really comes down to you, the employers. There are too many employers out there that are simply saying, hey, you know what? I can't hire someone right out of a CTE high school program. I can't hire someone right out of trade school. They don't have the experience I need. I need to hire a journeyman plumber. I need to hire a master electrician because I need to go out there and win more jobs, and that's gonna grow my business. Guess what? If you are relying on your next hire to grow your business, you're simply not doing hiring the right way. You need to have that cash flow established, that book of business built out before you bring on the hiring, because all hiring is going to do is further drive down your capital flow. It's going to drive you out of the black into the red, and you're going to have to start looking at that younger generation of talent that's coming into the workforce, coming out of great trade school programs across the country. They are motivated to work. They just prove that. by raising their hand and decided to enter this skill set. And it's really now on us, the business owners, to start developing and training these folks. So when we think about those young people, we say, okay, so how do I go ahead and actually communicate with them? Simplest way is there's probably a community college, a trade school in your neighborhood. Drive down there, meet with the instructor. They're gonna love to bring you into the classroom. If you're saying you can't find talent and you've never gone to your local school, hey, there's no one to blame but looking yourself in the mirror. Now, if you're trying to hire on a larger area, maybe a nationwide company, the number one way to do it right now, you source that talent, you found them through these different platforms, you have someone's information in front of you, please do not send them an email. No one right now, especially young people, are opening emails from people they don't know. On our platform, obviously people create profiles, they communicate with us. Only 13% of our users open emails from us, and they're volunteering to utilize our services. However, 99.1% of our job seekers will answer and respond to text messages from employers looking to communicate with them. Text messaging has become the preferred means of communication, not just for young people, but for every single major age demographic in America. So whether you're, 16 years old and you just got a cell phone, or you're, 75 and a retiree, every single demographic now says they prefer to receive initial communication with somebody they don't know via text. So no longer do you have to feel like, oh, I feel uncomfortable texting this person. I don't know them, that seems too personal. Hey, that's what everyone prefers. And just imagine if you're trying to grow your business, get more sales. Imagine if 99% of your customers would open your emails. Like your schedule would be blowing through the seams. You have too many house calls to make. So now it's time to switch over, utilize that text message, keep it nice, short, consistent. Remember, about 48% of the US population is using Android, so keep those messages to 160 characters or less. Make that that invitation and start that communication. It really is the best way to do it. Another thing, we talked a little bit about emails. Please stop using that as your initial. Also, stop leaving voicemails. I don't know about y'all. Really the only person in my life now that leaves me voicemails are spam calls and my mom. And Mom, I'm sorry, I'm not listening to your voicemail. If you leave me a voicemail, I'll just call you back eventually, or I'll send you a text message. Luckily, my dad now prefers text messaging, so that's much easier. So, all right, we source folks. We decide, how to reach out to them. We're going to send them a text message to get them in the door. Obviously, kind of a huge peak to reach over is, okay, you found somebody, you're talking to them on text. Now you actually have to bring them in for the interview. This is the critical piece, and where so many business owners are really failing to do what I call converting your talent from a source into an actual potential hire. Number one thing to keep in mind right now, folks, is speed. I like to think of the labor market right now kind of like the housing market. We always hear about a buyer's market, seller's market. Right now it's a job seeker's market. We see quality job seekers joining our platform every day, whether they're in industry already, just looking for new opportunities, coming out of a trade school, some other kind of training workforce development center, and they're getting multiple reach outs by employers every day. The employers that win are the ones that do a fast, accelerated, efficient process. And what I mean by that, okay, you got this individual, they look qualified here on paper. Let's start the interview process. Best way to reach out, hey, send that text message. Let's schedule an interview right now. Set up that phone and or video interview. Do a nice, less than 10-minute quick screen by your team. Make sure they're going to fit that bill. Don't be afraid to cut it right there. There's no point in continuing to waste time if it's not going to be a good fit. If they are a good fit, right there while you're on that initial call, go ahead and schedule that follow-on. So this is an area where people start to fail, is they make this follow-on process simply too long and they take too much time. If you're taking 2 weeks to go from that screening to hire, you're done, you failed, they're going to move on to other opportunities. Right there during that phone screen, that video interview, go ahead and schedule an on-site interview. There was an awesome study conducted years ago by Google Thankfully for them, we're able to just steal all their data because none of our companies will ever be able to invest the amount of money and time that Google did into this. But they found that there really was no benefit to interviewing a potential hire more than 4 times. And what that meant was that they viewed a successful hire as somebody that came on board with the company and stayed for a minimum of 2 years. And they found that if they interviewed somebody 4 times and everyone agreed, yes, this is a good hire, that person had an 86% chance of being a successful hire, being on board for 2 years or more and hitting their marks. Whereas if they interviewed somebody, they were doing interviews, 1 interview, 10 interviews, 15, they went as far out as 18 interviews. And they found that the chance of saying like, yep, this is a good hire only increased by about 3% if they did 15 plus interviews. So like, just imagine if a company asked you to come in for 12, 13, 14, 15 in-person interviews, you would absolutely run away. But, there's only an 89% chance that they're going to be a good hire at 18 interviews. So go ahead, stick to 4. Obviously 4 sounds a little bit challenging, but what's really cool about this study is that it wasn't so much that you needed 4 different time slots, but that 4 people from your company interviewing this individual and all 4 agreeing, yes, this is a good potential fit, qualifies as that. So what I like to tell smaller companies is, hey, you did the reach out, you did that phone screen, that counts as 1. Bring the person in for an in-person interview. You're going to meet whether with their hiring manager, their direct manager, maybe you, the business owner, and go ahead and have that. That's your second interview. Right then, have it planned out. If you're a service company, have them go immediately onto a ride-along with one of your technicians. That now counts as your 3rd interview. If you come back to the shop, the technician's like, yep, this person's good to go. Boom, you just nailed it. If it's more of a facility, have them come into the facility, do a tour. But when you're doing that tour, let your team know, hey, this is part of the interview, and have those people at your facility with preset questions to interact with the individual. And then afterwards, obviously, you get that download and you find out, hey, is everyone comfortable with this person? Do you feel good about it? That also counts as multiple interviews. And then at the end of the day, if at all possible, what I always recommend is to invite the person out for a meal, whether it be lunch, whether it be dinner. If they're married, have them bring their spouse, because nothing shows a person's true colors more than breaking bread. We eat, some of us too much, but if you're, it's something that we do regularly, and we tend to put our guard down while we're eating because it's something that we're so comfortable with. So you bring the person out, enjoy a meal. I'm sure y'all can look up the crazy stories about Ford, the way that he would interview his engineers. It was always over a meal, and whether people would add salt to their food before ever tasting, or how they interacted with the wait staff. And it's those important characteristics that you're able to measure over a meal, make the offer right then and there, and hopefully you can knock out this entire process. We recommend within 3 days, and that really is the golden kind of window for bringing in talent. So now that we've gone through the interview process, I just mentioned, making that offer. What is in the offer is absolutely critical to actually winning over this talent and bringing them on board. I mentioned it a little bit ago. This recruiting talent acquisition process, you got to think of it as a sale. Just like you're trying to sell your services to customers, you're trying to sell your company, your opportunity to potential hires, because again, it's their market right now. So we did a very, very comprehensive study of both the kind of general labor market pool and also Gen Zs. So when we look at the general labor market pool, a lot of people say, the number one thing that people are looking for right now is compensation. It's actually not true. Compensation usually at most times sits somewhere around the 3rd or 4th most important factor when deciding what company to choose from. Obviously, compensation matters. None of us are working for free. We need to feed ourselves, feed our family. Volunteer work is great, but not when it comes to your main source of income. But the number one thing that skilled trade workers are looking for, believe it or not, is a flexible schedule. Now, when in the media and whatnot, we hear flexible schedule, you're like, we can't have plumbers working from home. I need you to go into other people's homes, right, and go do work. But that's not what I mean. What I mean by flexible scheduling is that you're not going to keep somebody on third shift for the next 5 years. You're not going to require that someone always work Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 5:30 every single day. A great example, a story from years ago, interaction that occurred on our platform was a business owner. He has a mobile automotive repair facility in the greater Maryland area. And he found a job seeker on our platform. They connected, interviews went great. But during the offer process, the job seeker said, hey, my number one requirement before I accept this job is that every Thursday my son has a lacrosse game and I will not miss his lacrosse games. So I need to be able to leave work and attend those lacrosse games. The business owner said, hey, I totally understand that. Family comes first. So what they went ahead and did was schedule his days so that he worked, an extra hour, 2 hours, Monday through Wednesday, so that would allow him to take off earlier on Thursday, around lunchtime, to go and attend his son's lacrosse games. In the future, who knows, maybe his son's gonna start playing on Wednesdays or Fridays. But what that created was not only just incredible loyalty, this was years ago, that employee still works for that company. And you really built a relationship between the employer and the job seeker. And you gave that job seeker the number one thing they were looking for was flexibility. Other things that always come top of the list is job satisfaction, just that intrinsic value that we as trade professionals get that, I think it's one of the cool things that we're able to tell those white collar folks in the office, how much job satisfaction do you get from filling out another Excel spreadsheet? And then another area, it sometimes ties right there along with compensation is healthcare opportunities. 97% of Gen Zers right now will not accept a position if they are not going to be eligible for healthcare coverage within 90 days of employment. That's another one of those things that comes down similar to the spend for training is, hey, if you can't afford healthcare, if you can't afford training, you really got to examine whether you should even be hiring right now. So I also like to throw out there, just like, these are the important things folks are looking for. A couple things you definitely should not be doing. Sign-on bonuses. Sign-on bonuses are the single worst ROI in the talent acquisition process that you can possibly have. A couple problems that sign-on bonuses have. We saw a ton happening kind of near the end of COVID. I'm happy to say that sign-on bonuses are becoming less and less of a thing. However, what sign-on bonuses do, even if you put on, hey, you have to work with us for 6 months, 12 months, et cetera, into a contract, all that does is it really makes that new hire feel that once that sign-on bonus contract period is over, they actually feel like they took a pay cut. So for easy math, let's say that you're paying someone $100,000, you give them a $10,000 signing bonus year one. Come year two, they're still making $100,000, but they're like, wait, last year I made $110,000. I just lost money. Well, no, you didn't. It's the sign-on bonus. And what's that individual going to do? They're going to, as they drive into work that day, they're going to see another company with sign-on bonus, and I'm sorry, they're going to leave you. But even more detrimental than that is the long-term employees that you have on your team. They're like, hey, where's my loyalty bonus? I'm still working here. I want to be compensated properly. And that's where I always say, hey, rather than spending that $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 sign-on bonus, utilize that extra cash for employee referrals. And then you're able to bring in good quality employees and keep your existing loyal employees happy. Excuse me. Another couple things is unlimited PTO, pay time off. The lie about unlimited PTO is out. Most employees that have access to that will actually end up taking less vacation time than if you just said, hey, you have 10, 15, 20 days of paid time off available to you. So don't even bother putting that on, on your job posts. That's one of those things that people are seeing right through nowadays. So awesome. We found them, we talked to them, we interviewed them, we put the compensation package together. I think a great way to kind of wrap this up is how do you kind of start that training process? One of the areas, it's one thing to develop apprenticeship programs, journeyman training systems for your company. But one thing I really want to focus in on is how to develop the next generation of pros. We talked about how there's more Gen Zers entering the labor force now in the skilled trades than ever before. The great work that people like Mike Rowe and other influencers have been doing to get the word out about the incredible career growth, the intrinsic benefits that come with the trades is out. Young people are hearing it. They're seeing, hey, in a lot of cases, traditional four-year college just isn't worth the investment, isn't worth the time. I want to go pursue another career. So everybody keep up the good work, keep spreading the word, keep showing the public the incredible things that are being made possible by as being a business owner, as being part of the trades. So you have these young people, and Gen Zers right now, we talked about, the things that employers are most looking for in a job. Gen Zers are a little bit different. The number one thing that they're looking for isn't flexibility in schedule, but it's actually the ability to have a clear career growth path laid out with a company. Obviously, they're not going to get hired and start getting promoted right away, but they at least want to know that you've established a system where if they go through the process, go through the proper training, go through the proper development, there is a pathway for them to grow, not only in their certifications, in their career, but also in their compensation down the road. The number two thing, believe it or not, this came as a shock when we asked thousands of young people that were entering the trade what they were looking for most. It's retirement benefits. It's almost like hard to think of a 21, 22-year-old kid being like, yeah, I'm really like to know more about my 401k benefits. One, I think it's absolutely awesome that young people are getting the word out there, but we also have to kind of think back. I'm like that borderline millennial. I don't know what the age bracket before me is. I lose track of that. But there's been some hard times when it comes to the housing crash, loss of retirement benefits, the ups and downs of the stock market. And I think Gen Zers have really seen that growing up throughout their lives, and they want to know that there's some kind of safety net established for them if they start investing and doing that properly. So that's one thing that most business owners really wouldn't think of, is I can attract a 21-year-old by establishing 401k matching, establishing a retirement plan. And then one thing we hear all the time, here in the news, young people don't want to work. They just want to, who knows, play video games, etc. Only 29% of Gen Zers, when they look at job posts, are even paying any attention to what I call the perks of the job. What I mean by that is snacks in the office, a free phone, with your hire, a company vehicle. They're really caring more about, again, that career path, the retirement benefits, than, hey, you know what, I can stop by the Sheetz on my way into work and grab my own snacks. Gen Zers, 70% of them say that they want to work for a company that has established training systems in place. But companies hear that all the time, like, I just don't have the time, I don't have the resources, the money. 91% of these Gen Zers say, oh, we don't need like a hard established. 91% prefer, when they do kind of hip pocket training, as I like to call it, to keep it 30 minutes or less. I think every single one of us managers, every single one of us business owners owes it to our employees to give them 30 minutes out of our day for training, for development. And frankly, if you're not doing that, I'm worried about where you're going to be 5 years from now as your more experienced workers are leaving the workforce, they're retiring. If we're not in making those simple investments. One of the reasons we love to work with House Call Pro is, for example, their field management training software for teaching you, not only how to use House Call Pro field management software, but all field management software. We support in our platform. We make it available to all of our job seekers. And it's those little kind of tidbits, those 30-minute investments that will really build long-term growth and longevity for your company. An important thing to keep in mind is that 91% of these Gen Z young people, when they're looking for training, they're not looking for something, expansive. Hey, we want you to send us somewhere and hours of paperwork and, VR and whatnot. 91% of these young people are simply looking for training that's 30 minutes or less. Every single one of us leaders, we have a requirement, an obligation to our new hires, to these young individuals, to go ahead and provide them with 30 minutes. If you can't find 30 minutes in your day, I'm sorry, you're simply not scheduling your day correctly. And this training can come in many different ways. Some of it, obviously, it can be video, some of it can be in person. One of the reasons we love working with House Call Pro is they've created House Call Pro for EDU, which provides, short, concise information, such as how to use FMS. Hopefully all of you understand the value of using a field management software, and it's time that we implement these kind of trainings, and it's these short but quality trainings into these young people that are going to help build the future of our companies. Because let's be honest, 5 years from now, if you're not developing these kind of training programs now, your older, more experienced workers, they're going to be leaving the industry. They're going to be retiring. And if these young people that are motivated, that have, again, they rose their hand, they went to trade school, they went through the training programs, they've made an investment of their time and their resources, they're simply looking for guidance for development. And it's really on us to start passing that on to the next generation and showing them, hey, look at what we built with our company. You can continue that, whether it's at our company, maybe down the road, they go off and build their own futures. But the future of the skilled trades is bright. Young people are choosing the skilled trades at greater numbers than ever before. And it really is on all of us as an industry to take these individuals, develop them, train them, and build the future that folks like Mike Rowe, other influencers have been telling the public for years now. This is where the jobs of the future are headed. There's a lot of talk out there with AI or taking jobs. Guess what? AI is never going to plumb a house. They're never going to do the rough wiring on a new build anytime soon. So good luck out there. If you're ever looking for talent, please come to BlueRecruit.com. We're at the booth. We're going to be here all day. So jump in with your questions. Let us know how we can help you. And good luck. Your company, your team deserves the very best of you.
For guidance building your hiring process or onboarding playbooks, or if you just want to trade tips with other pros, join the breakout rooms. Our team is there to help.